Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Bring It Back. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that were canceled or short-lived that I'd like to see get brought back in some shape or form. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Prime Video series Outer Range. Really quickly, if you're unfamiliar with Outer Range is, it's this sci-fi drama that follows this family that owns their own land and ranch. They're the Abbott family. Mainly it revolves, the entire family is involved, but it mainly involves like the father, who's kind of pseudo the head of the family. His name is Royal. Basically, he has this patch of land, but there's something special about the land because there's a giant pit that's related to time, because this show is kind of a time travel show, and basically there's another family that kind of wants this ranch's land, because the only person who knows about this pit's existence for the most part at the beginning series is Royal, but it becomes this thing that other people start finding out about it. It ends up being a thing that Royal's known about it for a while, and he's kind of kept it a secret from everybody, and it becomes more and more of a thing as the show has progressed, where like it started involving other characters. There's so much outside of the time travel element to the show that's just happening present day, because it's kind of a slow burn of a show, but then like everything starts getting interwoven when everyone starts finding out the truth about this, because it's such an interesting time travel show, because like they haven't quite fully set up the rules of how time travel works in it, because even by season 2 they start doing some things you're like, how does that work? Because I won't spoil anything, but the exploration in the time travel, and it makes you wonder like, okay, so it becomes that thing of, is it a thing of this is always meant to happen, even the changes? Or was it kind of like, are we kind of once again going on an alternate timeline type of situation? Like I said, in the context of season 2, that makes a lot more sense what I'm trying to say. But it is this ever-evolving mystery of trying to understand time, and this exploration into time being kind of this entity and this existing thing that humans are kind of tapping into. Just a very interesting, like, it's not... when you jump into the show, it's like I said, it's kind of this Western drama, almost like it's basically like a science fictional Yellowstone in a lot of ways. I've never watched Yellowstone, but I know enough of Yellowstone's premises to almost be like, yeah, it's kind of like it's like Yellowstone with time travel, which is interesting. Like I said, it's not like it's this major overarching like element to the show, but it doesn't always implement. It's at least in the first season, it didn't always play the biggest role. It was significant. But like I said, because it's like Royal keeps his massive secret. It's like he knows this big thing about, hey, here's this hole that has access to time travel, and I'm just not saying anything, and I'm keeping it to myself for reasons as you progress through the show you find out. So it's a really interesting show. Like, I'm not doing it justice explaining the premise. I'm doing a very piss poor job, but it's such a weird show to really kind of explain what it is. Like I said, Yellowstone time travel is kind of the best way I can describe it, because despite everything, for the most part, like most of the show takes place present day, so it's not like you're constantly time traveling, but time travel has such a rooted part of the story. Either way, news came out a couple days ago, sadly, that the show was canceled after its second season, which is such a bummer. Because especially, like I said, with a lot of the stuff that was introduced into season 2, they didn't get a chance to really explore and explain some stuff. So I was hoping like maybe a season 3 and beyond could really kind of, like I said, set the groundwork for like, how does this work? Like I said, there's a lot of like, wait, is this an alternate timeline, or is it supposed to be like, no, this always was meant to be happening and time is correcting itself because of these changes? Like, what does this all mean? Like, there's some stuff in season 2 you're like, what does that mean from a time travel perspective? Because some of you're like, these are paradoxes up the wazoo, and I don't know if the show hasn't really set up its time travel rules of the full consequences of it. So maybe that's something we would have explored in the future, but it's such a bummer because I really thoroughly enjoyed the show. I think it just comes down to not enough people watching it. I think the show had its fan base, but I think just not enough people watched it. Because the first season, when it came out, was dropped week to week. I believe it was like 2 episodes a week for like 4 weeks. The second season was dropped all at once. So I don't know if that played a role in that as well. Like, maybe it had a decent enough following the first season, but because it was released all at once, maybe that following, also like various reasons, I'm sure, like the show, it was almost like 2 years before we got the next season, but like that's kind of a lot of streaming shows are like on that cycle for the most part. So I just think that not enough people sadly watched it, and not enough people watched it, which is such a bummer, because there's so much more story to explore. I don't know if they would have been able to finish everything in a 3rd season or would they need a 3 and 4? It just would have depended on the story they ended up telling in 3. Because I ended up talking about this in my review. I think I was reading Josh Brolin had said, like, the show was originally supposed to be like, potentially, I don't know at what point it changed, but at one point in time, the show was going to be like a one and done. It was only going to be like a 1-season story. But considering the way the story plays out, you're like, how would that have been? That show changed so much, it allowed for more story to be told. And the same thing is season 2, like, some stuff is resolved, but all I'll say is, like, you get a very, like, Ouroboros element to season 2, especially the way it ends, and there's just so much to explore in a season 3 and beyond. So it's such a bummer. This being on Prime Video, I don't see any other streamer grabbing it, so it feels like this might be the end, but I don't know. You never know how things could change. Like, maybe they'll be able to shop the show somewhere else. But it feels like, once again, if a streamer getting canceled, just feels like that's kind of the death knell, sadly, for a show. Like, there's no chance of it getting a second life somewhere else. But, you know, it could happen. So, but like I said, I would want the show to have maybe at least 2 more seasons, depending on how the season 3 story would have went, to determine whether or not the show would go beyond season 3 or not. But, you know, fingers crossed, hoping that something can change and happen, but it just seems super unlikely at this point in time. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.